So I'm going to start off with sharing my screen. And if I can move that or drag that down somewhere else. Yes, I can. Cool. So here's the first little quotation. The darkness of evolutionary night began to fade centuries ago, when the first ape-like creature left his tree branch kingdom and walked slowly out into the light of the plain. He was guided by something he could not understand, something unape-like and impossible for his comrades. Somehow, somewhere in his seething body chemistry, something had changed. In his brain lay the seed of humanity. In his strangely bright eyes, the dark shadow of a hidden dream. So I think that passage beautifully expresses the dawning of the awakening of the spiritual urge and how that separated that first human being and made him different from the other plants and animals. Now, why is my screen not? Oh, yes. Okay. So this slide expresses the idea that what is driving us is our spiritual desire. But not everybody may understand that fully. They don't understand what's driving them and what where they can satisfy that desire, and so they seek to express it in the material world. Nothing in the finite material world can satisfy our inborn longing for complete and permanent happiness. Only realization of the infinite can satisfy this urge. The infinite can be only one, and that is the cosmic entity. So it is only the cosmic entity that can provide permanent happiness. The quest for complete and permanent happiness is the characteristic of every human being. In reality, behind this human urge is hidden the desire, the longing for attainment of the cosmic entity. It is the very nature of every living being. This alone is the Dharma of every person. For some reason, my slide is not changing. There we go. The word Dharma signifies property. The English word for it is nature, characteristic, or property. The nature of fire is to burn or produce heat. It is the characteristic or property of fire, and is also termed the nature of fire. Similarly, the Dharma or nature of a human being is to seek the cosmic entity. So yeah, Dharma means defining characteristic. What is it that is the defining characteristic of something like fire or water or human beings? My mouse is less accurate, but at least it works. People feel real happiness only when they can attain the cosmic entity or get into the process of attaining it. So the process is also important. Progress in the right direction also brings happiness. The goal of the mountain climber is to reach the top of the mountain, but the approach also gives happiness. the feeling that one is moving in the right direction is very important to human beings. So we may have a very difficult life, but if we feel that our goal is correct, like I'm satisfied, I'm finally pointing in the right direction, and we feel that we're moving in that direction, then that can help us go through many difficulties with some satisfaction, right? There's quite a lot of difficulty involved in achieving many things that we achieve. But when our goal is clear and we know that what we are doing, despite its discomfort, is part of achieving that, then we feel some happiness and satisfaction even in the difficulty. That which provides support to the essential qualities and the specific characteristics of a living being is Dharma. So doing meditation supports realizing the cosmic entity, right? It's what we do in order to realize the cosmic entity. So doing meditation is also Dharma. And there are other things which we do, which are part of our spiritual path and which are essential to us making spiritual progress and moving towards realization of the cosmic entity. So, for example, in this picture, it shows a picture of Bhishma, and to help his father, Bhishma took an oath of celibacy and an oath to serve all kings who take the throne. In return, the gods gave him the power to choose the time of his own death. So there was some power in that oath. And we also, in anandamarga, we, at the time of initiation, we take oaths. If we become a monk, we take oaths. If we get married, we take oaths. And part of our discipline is to remember those oaths on a daily basis. And that gives some sort of power, that gives us some kind of force that helps us move towards our goal of God realization. So it's also part of our Dharma and other practices like that. The base of our spiritual practice is Ashtanga Yoga, and the foundation of Ashtanga Yoga are the yamas and niyamas, which are the ethical or moral codes, such as non-harming, such as benevolent truthfulness, such as trying to see the divine in all people and things. So these ethical principles are also Dharma because they are practices which help us to realize the infinite. And the kind of summary and collection of all those practices that we do, both to help ourselves on our spiritual journey and to help others on the spiritual journey, is the 16 points. So if we have any doubt about what our Dharma is in Anandamarga, it's all there laid out very conveniently and clearly for us in these 16 points practices. So we could say that if that which helps us to achieve our goal is Dharma, then the 16 points are Dharma. Fire burns, and so we know it is fire. It is because of their dharmas that different objects can be distinguished from each other. Water makes things wet, so we know it is water. Fire burns, so we know it is fire. It is the different dharmas that are that which makes things different. Human beings seek the cosmic entity, and so we know they are human beings. Well, I couldn't resist this because there must be other creatures who seek the cosmic entity. So maybe, according to that definition, they are humans also. So I remember Baba said that, one day animals, advanced animals will also do sadhana. And he said that we should open training centers to help them learn how to do sadhana. So maybe when that day arrives, we can call them human beings also. And I think that little dog kind of looks somewhat similar to the man sitting next to him. Sorry, my mouse is very sensitive. Natural Dharma and spiritual Dharma. So according to our philosophy, Dharma is of two broad categories: natural Dharma, Svabhavika Dharma in Sanskrit, and spiritual Dharma or Bhagavat Dharma. Svabhavika Dharma means that Dharma by the performance of which survival is maintained. That is, eating, sleeping, fleeing from danger, survival, and procreation. Spiritual Dharma is that which differentiates human from non-human. So the natural Dharma we share with all other creatures, but the spiritual Dharma is unique to human beings. That's our characteristic trait. The object of natural Dharma and spiritual Dharma is the same: happiness. When I was researching, looking for pictures, nice pictures, I like the process of finding beautiful pictures. I came across this picture. Let me see the next one. Yes. So showing the 4 levels of happiness. So I kind of searched for that on the internet too, and it was something very relevant. So I thought I'd share a bit of that with you. So 4 levels, starting from the base, material, then personal, others, and ultimate. And here's what it says about it. The 4 levels of happiness represent your personal priorities and how you relate to others. The lower levels of happiness, level 1 and 2, are more immediate feelings. Higher levels of happiness, 3 and 4, are more rational and related to your values and ethics. Level 1, pleasure. The first level of happiness includes the fundamental drivers in your life: physical pleasure and immediate gratification. This form of happiness is relatively short-lived and shallow. Examples include a delicious meal, new clothes, or even listening to your favorite music. There's nothing wrong with them, but getting stuck at the first level of happiness is a constant roller coaster of seeking satisfaction in temporary desires. All right. So if we put all our focus, if we are stuck here, then, we're always only partially happy and only for a short period of time. So it's not really where we want to go. Level 2 is passion. So this is, things like achieving something, or, kind of having a hobby, or that something that you really are passionate about. But it's really related to you. Whether it's a hobby or getting recognition at your job, being passionate about something is an excellent source of happiness, but it's usually based on a need to satisfy your ego. Passion is needed to gain self-confidence. However, if you get stuck at this level, you may become obsessed with winning so much that you feel you have the need to keep others down. This type of happiness is not enduring. Okay, so again, let's say you have a hobby you're passionate about, you enjoy it for half an hour, but then it's gone. It doesn't give anything permanent, so it's not something that is where we can focus our humanity. Level 3, purpose. Oh, I was going to comment that art for art's sake versus art for service and blessedness. So This, if you have a hobby, for example, some type of art or music, what you are doing it for, the why of it, is also what will put it on one level or another. If you are conscious that you are doing that art or that music to bring bliss to others, and you are doing it with an ideation to bring bliss to the divine, and that it's part of your own spiritual practice in a sense, then that brings it up into the higher two levels. Level 3, purpose. When you feel like your talents and skills allow you to serve others and are part of something bigger, this can give you a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and long-term happiness. Everyone wants to think that their life has meaning. Deeper, longer-lasting happiness grows as you make a positive difference in the world. So there's a nice idea that Baba gave in which he talked about the importance of having a mission. And this is the quote: "One should always bear in mind, I am alive in this world for the fulfillment of my mission. This is the reason I am eating, dressing, sleeping. Apart from this, I have no worth." And if one ever lives a life without a mission, then in that case, no effort you make will bring success. If you do not want to serve the world, you will become a burden on the world. It would be better to leave the world than to live as a burden on it. Human life should be enriched with intense activity. Whatever might be one's specific mission in the objective or expressed world, fundamentally, one's mission is to promote the welfare of the world. So I found that very powerful and inspiring, that we need to live life as a mission, and that whatever we do, eating, dressing, sleeping, is for the fulfillment of my mission. And that, when we are not doing that, when we are just living for our own pleasure, we are not doing anything for the world. We are just, a burden on it. So we'll come back to this point a little bit later on. And level 4, ultimate good. The 4th level of happiness is known as ultimate good. And I think this relates to our, what we've been talking about: spiritual practice, self-realization, God realization. And so if you look at those upper 2 levels, 3 and 4, they are expressed very simply and directly in the motto of Anandamarga, which is self-realization and service to the universe. So if you want a one-sentence description of your Dharma, of your purpose on this planet, there it is: self-realization and service to the universe. So there is some sacrifice involved in this. We have to have the kind of focus that was being talked about there. You have to shift from level 1 and 2 and put all your focus on level 3 and 4, and that involves some, giving up of pleasures. But that sacrifice leads of the smaller, lower level pleasures leads to a deeper happiness on a deeper level. So we're not actually sacrificing our happiness, we're deepening our happiness. We're sacrificing some short-term pleasures for the sake of a deeper, more rewarding, more fulfilling, more blissful, and longer-lasting happiness, which makes a lot of sense, but nevertheless, it's not so easy to do. So I think there's a beautiful quote from Tagore that expresses this conflict and what you realize when you do that. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. One little passage of our masters that always impressed me was where he described the 4 unique human longings that set us apart from other creatures. The first, the desire to expand. So when you think about it, that's not there in a kind of profound sense in animals and plants. The desire to become one with the cosmic entity, the desire to do something noble, a fundamental human characteristic, the desire for peace, supreme peace, undisturbed peace. So that fits very well with sadhana. I mean, sadhana helps us fulfill our unique human longings. Sadhana helps us. By sadhana, I mean meditation, spiritual practice. Asanas, all are spiritual practices. So the spiritual practices help us to expand. They help us to become one with the cosmic entity. They give us the inspiration to do something noble, and also the wisdom and the self-control and the kind of intuitive understanding that helps us to do something noble in a better way. And finally, they give us supreme peace, undisturbed peace, in the way that nothing else can. And right beside them, are the 4 specialities or characteristics of what is Dharma. And they also kind of fit with each other. So the first one is Vistara, expansion. The second one is, this, expansion of consciousness, that is one characteristic. If you are involved in Dharma, you're involved in expanding your consciousness. If you are involved in Dharma, then that will, bring this feeling of being in sync with divine waves. And that can come in 2 ways. As you meditate, you are meditating on the divine consciousness, and that brings your mind in sync with that consciousness. So your waves and the divine waves begin to flow together, right? And that brings this feeling of flow and rasa and a blissful sense of flowing in harmony with the supreme consciousness. And it also comes when as we work in the world, we are working with trying to fulfill the cosmic will, right? The Tao. What is the Tao? What is the Dharma? That the earth is a place designed to nurture all living beings on their journey of expanding their consciousness, right? So if you are working to help others expand their consciousness and help create a kind of beautiful environment that supports all creatures to exist and to grow in different levels, then you will have this feeling of rasa and flow, because you are working in harmony in the flow of the cosmic will. You are doing what the universe wants, and that gives this feeling of flow. If, however, you are suppressing others and blocking their progress and undermining their capacity to exist, then you are directly working against the Tao, and you will feel that somehow that you are totally isolated and in conflict with this kind of deeper universal flow. And one of the characteristics that helps you know that you are following Dharma is this feeling of service and doing service. So one aspect is of Dharma is it's not just a personal thing of meditating in a cave, it's also doing service. And finally, the last aspect of Dharma is this permanent establishment in the state of realization. So these are the 4 features. So what does it mean to follow Dharma? Following Dharma means a battle against animality. The animality in people draws them towards gratification of animal desires, but the rationality of their consciousness remains unfulfilled, since all these are transitory and short-lived. They are not enough to put at rest the unending and unlimited hunger of the human consciousness. There is thus a constant duel, a battle in humans between their animality and rationality. The animal aspect pulls them towards instant earthly joys, while their consciousness, not being satisfied with these, draws them towards the cosmic entity, the infinite. This results in the struggle between the animal aspect and consciousness. So, so in another discourse, our master explains that because we have spent so many lives as animals as we evolved, that momentum of all those animal lives is still there. And that's what brings out these natural animal desires. So, that's how we are. We are evolving out of animals, but we still have all of that momentum with us. And I think we've all felt, and we probably feel it every day, this conflict between, something that wants some instant pleasure, which, we know isn't going to, maybe it's in contradiction to what will help our meditation or our spiritual life at the moment. And we have to choose one or the other. And so Dharma is this battle against those animal desires to choose something deeper, more rewarding, more meaningful, and sacrifice that need for instant gratification. I like to simplify things, and one way of doing that is I have this little thing that I say to myself: remembering God is life, forgetting God is death. Remembering God is happiness, forgetting God is suffering. So we have lots of, we can't, in another discourse, our master says that you can't just, suddenly put aside all these physical needs or psychic needs. Otherwise, like if you cut all the branches off a tree, it will die. So you have to kind of slowly bend the branches in towards the sun rather than cut them off. And so prioritizing, right? Understanding what is my main focus and giving some scope to other things, but always knowing where your main goal is and gradually trying to educate your desires to move in the direction that you want. And one of the ways that we do that is by, whenever we enjoy an ice cream, we don't just stick it in our mouth and enjoy it. We pause for a moment. We remind ourselves this is also divine, and we eat the ice cream mindful that it is also an expression of God, and therefore bring a meditative aspect to that enjoyment. And by constantly doing that with every single thing that we enjoy, our desires are gradually educated and turned in a spiritual direction. So in a natural way, our desires get transformed rather than repressed. And this is a very important art in how to change yourself in a psychological way. So, in order to meditate on the supreme consciousness, human beings need body, mind, and soul. To pursue their spiritual practice, people have to live. And in order to live, they have to make efforts to get food, clothing, and shelter. But providing food, clothing, and shelter are not their main concern. These things are no doubt necessary in order to maintain the capacity to do spiritual practice. But these things are clearly not the end goal. Whenever someone forgets this, a downfall begins in that person's life, because thereby that person has set his or her foot on the path of materialism, discarding their own spirituality. They deviate from their own human dharma. So we have to get a job, but when we become so obsessed with the job, and we have to earn money, but when we become totally obsessed with earning money, then we get deviated and we, encourage a downfall in our life. So always, and it's a challenge to meet all those different things, but keep that sense of where am I ultimately going, and to remember that whatever it is I'm doing is only a step, a platform that I need in order to reach my ultimate goal, never forgetting that ultimate goal. So that ability to prioritize is what's expressed here. On the right-hand side, you see Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So all the needs are there. And in fact, it says that, you have to take care of the lower needs in order to meet the higher needs. But just remember, they are not the ultimate goal. On the left-hand side is a Christian representation, but I think it does a very nice job of, saying what's the priority and what are the secondary things there. Okay, so Baba talks about secondary dharmas, and there was one part in his writing where he talked about polished satans. So he was talking about, kind of evil people who aren't really human, but they're very, they're polished. That means they're sophisticated. They have good manners. They have, they dress nicely. They follow so-called, British civilization, and they may be seem to be very cultured people, but the spirituality is missing. The love is missing. This, at heart, they are self-centered people who are just gratifying their own desires, even though they seem to be very cultured. So there are certain things that dogs don't run around in suits and use a knife and fork, etc. So only humans do that. So you could get a bit confused that, being a human being means wearing a suit and nice shoes. But these are what, although they are human characteristics that other creatures don't have, they are still secondary dharmas. A human has certain secondary dharmas or secondary characteristics, as for instance, his or her particular style of eating, particular style of laughing, style of washing, etc. All these come within the category of secondary dharmas. Humans take a shower regularly, not that they shower on one day a week, they shower every day. All these are the special qualities of human beings. It is in reference to these secondary properties that it has been said, whatever other qualities and properties humans may have should all be considered secondary dharmas, secondary properties. So take your bath, eat your food, go on with your daily work, but remember, these are not your main vritti, your main propensity, your main characteristic. Learn to follow only one thing as your main vritti, your primary dharma, and that is accept only God as your refuge. So music, for example, right? So that may be a secondary dharma. But, we talked about that earlier, how you do music, but, You may be a musician, everything, but first and foremost, you are a spiritual aspirant. Feeding the hungry, protecting the weak, and defeating the exploiters are also Dharma. It is part of our efforts to build a society based on Dharma. It is part of our 16 points. Okay, so there's I think this is just part of Indian philosophy, a Sanskrit phrase, Jato Dharma, Tato Jaya. Where there is Dharma, there is victory. And I'll read this nice expression from Baba's writings. The mission of human life is to move towards perfection, towards God. This is one's duty. In this struggle, the forces of evil are bound to be defeated. This has been the case all along, and history will repeat itself. You have no right to rest until you have fulfilled your mission of being perfect, of being divine, of establishing yourself in perfection. Rest is sin, as it puts a stop to this movement. Do not rest until you have reached your goal. So that's the spiritual side of it. And on the social side of it, there's this quotation of Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita that Baba used to share a lot. And it went like this. For the protection of the virtuous, the destruction of the wicked, and the restoration of Dharma, I incarnate myself from age to age. So that was the divine mission. The divine, when Dharma, this spirituality, fades in the world, when suffering and exploitation and greed become the dominant thing, then the divine itself will manifest and come to bring society back into that spiritual track. So to help create a world which is spiritual and which kind of supports people, not only people, but all living creatures, and the physical world itself takes care of it, nurtures it, helps it on its journey towards higher consciousness. And that is our job too, to support that transformation and to make that effort to bring society back onto a spiritual track. And before he left his physical body, he asked us all to make a promise to that effect. And he asked us to take an oath. And this was it. I'm sure most of you know it already. All my energy, all my mind, all my thoughts, and all my deeds are to be directed towards the path of collective elevation of human society, without neglecting other living beings and inanimate objects, right from this moment until the last moment of my existence on this earth. So that's an expression of a dharmic life, fulfilling our spiritual urge, doing spiritual practice, and working in the world to create the opportunity so that all other creatures in the world itself may exist safely and evolve towards their highest good and highest capacity. Those two things in combination are what is Dharma. So basically the same simple idea expressed in different ways. I hope that helped the concept to get through to you, and I hope you found it useful and inspiring.